Before Python, before Java, before C, there was a tiny, simple language that taught millions of people how to think like a programmer. A language so influential that it shaped the entire personal computer revolution. Today, we're talking about BASIC, the language that created a generation of coders. Our story begins in 1964 at Dartmouth College. Two professors, John Kemeny and Thomas Kurtz, had a bold idea. Computers were becoming powerful, but programming them was still a privilege reserved for mathematicians and scientists. Kemeny and Kurtz wanted to change that. They believed programming should be accessible to everyone. So they created BASIC, short for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. The goal wasn't to build a complex language. It was to build a friendly one, something students could learn in a single afternoon. And it worked. BASIC spread across universities like wildfire. But its real explosion was still to come. Fast forward to the mid-1970s. Personal computers were just beginning to appear. Machines like the Altair 8800, a box of switches and lights that looked more like lab equipment than a computer. And this is where BASIC changed history. Two young programmers, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, saw the Altair and realized something. This machine needed a programming language. Something simple, something accessible, something like BASIC. So they wrote Altair Basic, Microsoft's first product. It was tiny, efficient, and revolutionary. Suddenly, anyone who bought an Altair could write programs. Not just engineers, anyone. This moment didn't just launch BASIC into the mainstream, it launched Microsoft. From here, BASIC became the default language of the early home computer era. The Apple II, the Commodore 64, the TRS-80, the BBC Micro, all shipped with BASIC built in. Turn on the computer, and you were dropped straight into a BASIC prompt. No apps, no icons, no mouse, just a blinking cursor waiting for you to type your first line of code. For millions of kids in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, BASIC wasn't just a language. It was a gateway. It was the first time they realized they could control a computer. They typed simple programs like 10 print hello, 20 GOTO 10, and watched the screen explode with text. It felt like magic. From there, they built games, calculators, animations, and strange little experiments. BASIC taught them logic, structure, and problem-solving. It taught them how computers think. And many of those kids grew up to become the programmers who built the modern tech world. If you talk to developers today, especially those over 40, you'll hear the same story. I learned programming in BASIC. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't elegant, but it was empowering. And that mattered more than anything. As computers evolved, so did programming languages. C, C++, Java, Python, each brought new features. BASIC slowly faded from the mainstream, but its DNA is everywhere. The idea of a simple, readable language? BASIC started that. The concept of teaching programming to beginners? BASIC pioneered it. The dream of making computers accessible to everyone? BASIC helped make it real. Even modern languages like Python carry BASIC's spirit, clear syntax, friendly design, and a focus on learning. And BASIC itself didn't disappear. It evolved into things like Visual BASIC, which powered Windows applications for decades. Even today, hobbyists still write BASIC programs on retro machines, keeping the nostalgia alive. So why talk about BASIC today? Because BASIC reminds us of something important. Technology becomes powerful when it becomes accessible. BASIC didn't win because it was the fastest. It won because it invited people in. It made programming feel more like creativity. It turned curiosity into capability. It turned kids into coders. It turned computers into personal machines. And in many ways, BASIC helped shape the world we live in. If you enjoyed this dive into tech history, hit like and subscribe. More retro tech stories are coming soon on Talking Tech.